We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Pass. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Pass, and I hope you all enjoy.
Yo, we got another one. Back to back, y'all. Think I'm doing something now. I ain't fooling nobody. Nah, but for real, man, we here, man. Another day on this amazing space called Earth and living this amazing thing called life. And sometimes we don't realize we should not take it for granted, but we're so engulfed and consumed by it that we forget that we are not we are taking it for granted. Um, This gonna be a light, very light podcast or walkcast for. Well, I say it's gonna be light, but then I got a heavy topic that I'm gonna chop it up about, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So we're gonna let it rock. But um, Apple has gotten desperate. Anyone who is shocked to hear me say this during any form of content doesn't know me very well, and the reason I'm making that statement is because. So before I go into this, I'm going to give a random story time, but it's going to be relevant story time. A few weeks ago, this young lady did a video on TikTok. Now, as many of you have heard, if you listen to the previous podcast or Wallcast, I mentioned that I'm taking a, you know, social break. So people have been sending me stuff, but I ain't really been on it. But I did send one to a few folks about um this girl, and she's just talking about how Apple is getting, but she basically says, "Welcome to Apple," saying how we're sheep, saying how, you know, why is Apple doing what they're doing? Because Apple knows what they're doing. Like, I don't care what anybody says, anyone feels, they know how to navigate and manipulate customers. And I hate to be that dark and making that statement, but truth is the truth. And why I say that is because the more the more up to date and the more updates we're seeing, the more things that are being removed. We've had the phones now. Like I'm just waiting for the day where we get a phone and it comes with literally just the phone. And kind of technically speaking, we're there now because you don't get a cable. A lot of times you don't get a cable. We stopped getting the power brick. The only time you're gonna get a power brick is if you get an iPad. iPad, they're gonna give you one. Headphones. Like the girl who put the video, she said, "Run me my headphones," and I was like, I mean, I commented and said, "Run me my headphones," because yo, it's no way possible that you've been having this product be in existence for all this time and there's no like these are essential items. Like as much as I talk bad about it, I personally don't mind using the USB-C port as a headphone jack because, unlike most people, I'm usually having my phone at a pretty good percentage. Like this morning, obviously it's at 100 because I'm the overnight charger guy. So I charge at night and make sure I'm good because you just never know. But that is not what this podcast is going to be about. But it's going to kind of be similar because Apple has thrown a Hail Mary this week. They have been announcing new items right in front of us. And how they how they do this is very unique, but also very like it really makes you think. And here's why I say that. A few days ago, might have been last week actually, uh, they announced and unveiled the iPad Mini, the new iPad Mini. Now, every device that I'm going to talk about will all have common one thing in common, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But they unveiled the iPad Mini, newer chip. I told a friend of mine about this at the time. I'm not impressed or intrigued about it only because now, if you're looking to get it, it's a great investment in my opinion. But the drawback, which isn't really a drawback, it's a win for them, is if you order it, you almost are forced, in so many words, to get the Apple Pencil Pro, which I'll be honest, I'm not against, if you have a new product, you want to push it and get those to buy it or whatever. But how they aren't making it where if you have the newer Pro, like either if you have any of the Pro models or the iPad Air that just came out or the Mini, why can't you use the original Apple Pencil that's magnetic and has the same features? That's my like minor gripe, but I'm not a seller of the product. And it also, as minor as it might seem, it could be something as simple as compatibility issues. But we chuck up the deuces, we keep it moving. No big deal. Um, the specs are literally exactly the same. There's nothing that's going to be riveting or a wow factor. There are two wow factors, and one of them is the chip. The other one, again, I'm going to hold that until I talk about everything that's being talked about. So this week, Apple decides, hey, we're going to unveil the new iMac. Now, full disclaimer, I have known quite a few Apple users, but if I'm speaking from experience and being fully transparent, I probably know off of the strength of one person that owns an actual iMac. Now they got this iMac when it was kind of in its heyday and they were using it for their line of business. No big deal, but again, not seen as a product that a lot of people own. New specs for that. Uh Decent starting point for the price, an appeal to get folks looking at alternatives if they don't want to get a MacBook. Still not appealing though. It also includes the feature that the iPad includes, which again, I'll get into that in a moment. Then finally, as of right now, the third feature or the third announcement was um, the iMac Mini. So if you've kept up, iPad Pro, I mean iPad Mini, iMac, and the iMac is kind of going with the, as we all know, the infamous color theme, and then the Mac Mini. Now the Mac Mini, they've made this one pretty small. It looks from the display or with the discussion supposed to be small and pretty portable to use. It's got two USB Cs. It's probably got a good amount of ports on the back to handle multi-use. I'm gonna go on a limb. It may not. It may have a USB port on it for GP, but overall, it's probably not gonna be used. And some other tech specs, things of that sort. Now remember, iMac and Mac Mini always require power. You can't portably use them because they are they by default they require that because they're still at the end of the day they're both still desktops. So you have to keep that in mind with both devices. So share the three devices. Now they push these all out at a really unique time because also that one thing that released this week that all of these devices will have is iOS 18.1. The beta is over. Um, Personally, and from my experience recently, I probably won't touch a beta for a while. And the only reason I say that is because the beta, as appealing as it was and as useful as it was to use the artificial intelligence, I don't use it enough. Oh, I'm sorry, not Apple Intelligence. I don't use it enough to really be wowed by it. But then to add insult to injury, the apps got very buggy and just scrolling from page to page, where 1 minute it would show the icons in dark mode, the next minute it would show them in whatever tint that I set it to. It was just a lot. So iOS 18 is out. I'm sorry, 18.1 is out. If you have not already downloaded it, it is public. It's available to everyone. It's not in beta or anything of that nature. You don't need to be a beta member to use it. Um, Matter of fact, Sequoia 15.1 released for the MacBook line. So if you got MacBook, MacBook Air, even the Macs, the older Macs that can access it, they all have it. And these new devices, the iPad Mini 7, I believe it is, because the 6, the iPad Mini 6 uses the Apple Pencil that I currently own, which I thought about it at one time really scaling back, but then I also thought about the fact that as strange as it is, or as minor as it is, the bigger factor of the because I've kind of gone through this before with technology, where it's like larger screens, smaller screens, but the trade-off is battery life. Um, MacBook Pro, let's pick up hit or miss, but iPad Pro, the newer, the one that I got, that iPad on its best day, if I'm not if I'm not going and watching a bunch of videos on it, it lasts for like a couple days. Which at the end of the day, who wouldn't who doesn't appreciate that? Um, so the train of thought, the iPad Pro, iPad Mini, the model that I have, the iPad Mini that was last out, all use the Apple Pencil. That is the magnetic version that sticks to the side. That works just fine. It doesn't have that haptic feature that the Pencil Pro has, but you also can't use like they're not. Apple knows what they're doing. That's kind of where this whole conversation is going because If you get the Pro, if you get the later, the current ones that are available, the Pro or the Mini, you can't use the Apple Pencil that I have with those. And if you have the previous versions of the Apple, the iPad or the iPad Mini, Pro Mini, any of those that use the original Apple Pencil, you can't use Apple Pencil Pro. So you're forced to do one of two things: stick with what you got, get the pencil that works for it, or upgrade and get the newer pencil if you're looking to do the newer options or newer features. If you're in need of those things that come with the newer Apple Pencil Pro. Now, like I said, I saw the keynote for it. I think it was this year. It's a nice accessory. It's a nice device, a nice tool. But I'm just not. Nothing's nothing's pushed me for it. I think I've had my iPad now for 3 years. Works like a charm. Uh, Literally, if you were to look at my iPad, you would not tell that it's literally like a 3 year model because I mean, right now I have a sticker on the back of it. Shout out to D Brands, even though I'm not using the Magic Mouse, but I mean the Magic keyboard, but that's another conversation. Uh, it in layman's terms and in the nicest way, it does its job. So I'm not mad at it for what it's been able to do for me in dire situations. But as I mentioned, the iMac, the Mac Mini or iMac Mini, I forget which one it's called, and the iPad Mini 7 all have Apple Intelligence built into them. They'll all have the, for the iPad, it's going to have the iPad OS 18.1. And for the Macs, they will have Sequoia 15.1. Now, a lot of folks don't use MacBook computers. I'm never going to be one to tell you what to use and what not to use because everything is, as the age-old phrase go, preference and likability. But um, I think I've been a Mac user now. I got my OG Pro in 2016, and I think I had it for no, not no, I'm sorry, not 16, 15. I had it for 7, no, 8 years actually. Yeah, I had it until 2023, and the Mac I have now is a little over a year old, with me at least. Um, no big hangups, no big hiccups with it. Uh, the newer one I'm loving because the screen size it's a lot lighter. Um, you do get in your feelings a little bit when it comes to the USB-C debauchery because a lot of people, most accessories are proprietary USB. So there's no way to connect an accessory via Bluetooth. Like you can't connect a thumb drive in the cloud per se. Um, I get the narrative and the idea that you want to push cloud storage. I get that you want to get people away from thumb drives. But for a lot of people, especially for a lot of data, you're better off carrying it in that manner compared to carrying it directly on the laptop and heaven forbid running out of space. That was something also a lot of people talked about. The base model of the Mac Mini was 256 gigs of RAM, of storage, and it was 16 gigabytes of RAM. So a lot of people like 16 gigabytes is not enough, but you don't really know a person's day-to-day usage with a device until they get the device themselves. Um, I would tell anybody from personal experience, if you get a computer, and it has 4 gigs of RAM, run or prepare to upgrade if you can upgrade. If you cannot upgrade, you stuck like Chuck. Um, that was why the newer Pro that I got, even though it was refurb, but it still was a good deal. It does the job that I need just fine. And we've been BFFs ever since. I think it's the 20, I want to say it was the 2019 model, but I'm still like any update that comes out, I get the updates. As far as profile, like if I update my profile to say, um, if I update my profile on my phone to do not disturb, it updates do not disturb on the computer. So stuff like that is the ecosystem's way of pulling you in. Um, which goes back to the girls video that I talked about on TikTok, where the the sheep reference is just a reality of the beast, especially on the strength of people like what they like. But then on top of that, and this is even down to, so I've been a Logitech user and consumer for shoot, at least 5 or 6 years. Keyboards and mice, you name them, I've used them, I've owned them, I've had them, I've seen them, whatever. As many features as those keyboards provide, I do the bare minimum. I don't customize, and it's not that I don't want to, it's just never been a reason for me to say, oh, let me change. So, like the Logitech icon pop, the Logitech pop icon just came out. And normally I don't do new items, but this one was a bit of an exception because I was pulled in by it. So I picked it up and I got it as a combo. And I was like, if I'm gonna get this, I'm getting this with a case. The only reason I'm getting it is because I don't need, I personally can go without using 100% keyboard, but I also at least need page up, page down at home and end. If I don't have an insert key, it's not the end of the world. But those four I need. It's non-negotiable. Um, almost that, and if you really are technical, the backspace and delete keys are kind of my go-tos as well. When the icon pop came out, there were two things that I did not like about it. Under no circumstances am I buying a keyboard for emojis. I'm sorry. This is not, I'm just not sold. And two, even with me owning one, I'm not the grandest fan of mechanical keyboards, only because you want to have a keyboard for its purpose. Now, if you're somewhere and it's workable to your standards, sure, you can have at it, go crazy, do what you do, and get that clicky sound and feel. I'm the exact opposite. I really don't even like if I'm put it this way, my brain always goes to if I use said accessory or said device at the library, will people know that I'm using it? And if the answer is like a blatant, obvious yes, we can't, it ain't gonna work. And that's okay. Um, I've been attached to more silent keyboards. When I had it, I thought the MX keys, the full keyboard was fine. It's crazy, but I keep my thoughts to myself. I had an intrusive thought, but I'm holding on to it. Um, but I got the mini. Mini is the perfect size, portable keyboard. They're both quiet based keyboards. The chiclet type keyboard model they use, the hinge is like the perfect chef's kiss in keyboard usage because yes, you are going to hear me type on it, but you're also not going to hear me type like I'm breathing like I'm dying for air. Put it into perspective. Um, so working with those two has been kind of working with that avenue has been like a main thing. So now I have like a Logitech K380. I've had my K380 probably the longest out of all my keyboards. So it's funny, like I just saw a review this morning where a guy said the Logitech K380 battery life is 2 years. And I'm like, 2 years? The same batteries that came with mine, I have not changed them since 2018. It had to be 2018, 2019. And that keyboard literally has been like the most clutch keyboard I've ever had. Smaller form factor, quiet keys. Um, you can program it kind of on the fly, but I have it programmed perfectly the way I need it, which is my work computer, my laptop, and my iPad. That's usually going to be the avenue that I'm going with most accessories. Random fact, I've just about set every device so that Profile 2 is always my um, my work computer. And it's like it's a it's a unique habit stack or habit hack, if you want to be technical, that has worked for quite some time. And I don't see me, as of right now, at least going away from that because it literally it works. So I'm not gonna shuffle things around that I don't need to. Uh, and there's people we do that unknowingly, where we're like, oh, I'll change it to this, and then you are hooking up that device, and you're like, why is it not working? Forgetting that you set that one as a different preference. Like most Logitech devices go through what I call the three. It's kind of like the three device connection. There was one accessory I bought that I used it, but I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because its connection capability was just trash, and it just didn't work. Um, so I don't use it. Um, like it came and instead, and also it only allowed you to connect two devices instead of three. There was another keyboard that I looked at that I wanted, but I didn't make the choice to get that one. I ended up getting this one. Both of them had this feature that I thought was appealing, and the one I chose, I didn't like the feature, which is you can sit your tablet or phone in like a little tray and type that way, which in theory sounds good, but in visual, it did not look good with the one that I got. So it didn't really fulfill the job that I needed. So I'm gifting that one today because I was like, I've had it for a while. I used it a little bit, and then after a certain point, I was like, it's not working. It's just not working. And as the age old saying goes, the rest is history. Um, I have a Keychron, obviously non-Logitech, but uh my Keychron was my break in to the mechanical keyboard world. And I didn't know if I would like it, hate it, whatever. But in using it, it's like I said, it's not great. It's not trash either. So I've stood by it. And that's just kind of where that is. But yeah, Logitech right now is usually gonna be you're gonna see the for work, I still have the OG Logitech, which has been nothing but great to me in using it. Um, what else was I gonna say? The MX Keys Mini. And again, all of this preference, like 'cause a lot of people like the Mini. Like I have one of my coworkers, she's into the everything's white, and I'm not against it. I don't like I said, I like. the look of it. I just always think about stuff getting dirty. So like the MX Master, the mouse, I've talked about it before. Um, I know I'm talking about it's like, oh, Brian, you got so much tech, but a lot of it is I use different things in different scenarios. So, for instance, whenever I'm editing podcasts, believe it or not, I like my MX Master. It's a perfect key, a perfect mouse. If I'm doing just casual designing work, I may use the vertical or the vertical key mouse, and I use either one of them because one is a lot better for the hand. One is like really perfect to the hand. It doesn't matter if you have a large or a small hand; it fits perfect. The other one is just big and bulky and clicks loud. Like I, I'm nitpicking, but I'm also truthful. The MX Master 3, I would love to trade it for a MX Master 3S only because of the silent feature. And it's so minor, but it's so like a reason that I would do it. But I'm happy, like I'm not gonna break break the bank for doing it. It's just not that deep. It'll never be that deep, personally. But yeah, man. Oh, dang. I just thought about it. I don't know if I'm gonna do another one of these again, but it is the end of October. Today's the 30th. I wished a few friends birthday wishes yesterday and today. One of them, the other person whose birthday is today, will likely respond. Ironically, I have like the same or similar nickname with both of them, but they've been like one I've been friends with for 2 or 3 years, and then the other one has known me since wow, like almost 20 years. So I think we met and hung out like back in '06, '06, '07. So full circle. Um, but reflecting on October, October has been now, I'll be honest, because by the time y'all hear this, it will have passed. But tomorrow is Halloween, as many people know. But it'll be probably a heavy Halloween for uh for my for my family, primarily my mom, because this will be her first anniversary without my dad. So it's a heavy holiday, heavy season, heavy thought process. Depending on what she has going on tomorrow, try to get her out the house, but seeing is believing. Um, and that's that on that. Uh, this month pushed me a lot in the discomfort of creativity. And why I say that is because a lot of times I've put myself in this quote unquote selling short position with being creative. And I know I talk about this all the time, but if you know, you know. If you don't, welcome aboard. But creativity has always been my strong suit, but I've never claimed it as being my strong suit. Because many times I think in the moment we're doing things, but not realizing there's a reason we're doing the thing. So my thing has always been writing, design, like artistry as far as graphic and web and podcasting. And lately, the writing realm has been heavy on journaling because I've done more micro journaling and journaling through the journal app as well as my physical journal when I'm really in a pinch of just let me write something down uh, and get it out on paper. And of course, like I mentioned, the newsletter, I've expanded the newsletter. I have my regular blog that I'm still writing on for WordPress, but I also just started Substack. So that's been fun to get going and start up again or start up for the first time. Um, my professional flow has been very calm, but also very informative, meaning I've learned quite a fair share about myself and my professionalism, and also knowing like to not make things be what they are when it's not necessary. And it's not, and this is not the case for everybody. So I don't want this to be like, oh, I need everybody to be professional like me. No, because I'm not. There are times that I really do want to just like go in the office, hide out, not be seen nor heard, and do my job. And that's it. And be okay with it. It's already bad enough, like whenever I have meetings or whenever I have things going on, I don't um I don't make things be more than what they have to be, but I also let them be what they are. Because I understand like you're here to fulfill a duty, fulfill a role, and do so to the best of your ability, which has been primarily priority number one. Uh, Speaking of priority number one, as I'm walking towards where I would normally do my voting, I did go ahead and get my absentee vote out the way, which was a great thing because something tells me I don't remember if uh if the election, if the polls open at 6 or if they're at 7. If they're at 6, then if they're at 6, it's gonna be interesting coming through here. But if it's at 7, I'm good because I can just do my walk and go on with my business. Everything's everything. But um it's it's been, and this is kind of going to mental a little bit. It's been a journey, but it hasn't been anything over demanding and deciding to take the break that I took or that I'm taking. Um, we notice, we understand that I literally got a full taste of this yesterday. Politics can be very taxing because people will be in your business about who and what you're doing, not understanding that it's a right and it's a privilege to have the ability to vote. So who I vote for isn't anyone's business. What I look like, why I'm voting for them is none of your business. Like those correlations do not correlate. And I think it's bad because what a lot of people do, and I don't like talking about this, but we're here, so screw it. What people do is, and this happened a while ago. Someone was placed in office based on race, not based on his abilities and things that he could or potentially have the ability to accomplish in his in his role. And sometimes that can be misinterpreted. And I think that's why I'm always gonna be on the side of think local, think local, like zoom out. Zoom out and zoom out. This is one of the few times it would normally be zoom in, but I'm zooming out because you want to zoom away from the White House and zoom in on where you are. Like there are things that people will have issues with locally, but the first thing I'll hear is, "Oh, I'm not voting. I only vote for the president. I don't vote for mayor. I don't vote for city council. I don't vote for uh I don't vote for like the governor. I don't vote for the other roles or other positions." But those are the positions you got to think about and you got to be more concerned about because laws and rules. Like somebody was, well, yeah, I was listening to Cal Newport. He brought this idea up, and I wouldn't be surprised if this ever happened. There's going to be a point that schools will soon be old school again. Now it'll affect the mental rate, but schools are going to go to no phones in school. Period. Point blank. The end. And folks are going to lose their mind because of that. And we literally had this conversation at men's ministry last week, where you take phones from some kids. For some kids, they need their phone to listen to music, and I 100% agree. And it comes down to, how do you find that happy medium, and how do you still make administrators happy, quote unquote? It's in all truth and honesty, there's really no concrete answer other than you you do what's in the best interest of like integrity and just the process. So some cases it might be, you know what, I'll take this one on the chin. Let this student cook and do what he does with having his music. Just have be smart. Like some kids are very smart with what they do and stuff with that, but then they also can become very like rebellious, because it's like, all right, cool, I got my phone. So now I'm gonna go on FaceTime. Now I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. And it's like, I let you use the phone for music, not to post photos and videos of you in class. And people do that unknowingly, not realizing like you've been given a favor. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm gonna take the favor and stick it up to your back. um, but yeah, mentally has been different, just in the sense that I've removed a lot of things that I normally would have in my possession, such as, it was, well, at the time I was latching attached to the socials. And I was like, I can't do it. Like I know this is one of them elections. And people are, as expected, being loud. And it's a mixture, because this year, not only do you have people being loud, but you also have people posting things just to post for engagement. And that can also be a little tricky, because there's a difference between authentically posting to post stuff and posting get uh to get a rise, or to get someone to react and or overreact to something that doesn't require that react. And I've personally found now, like, I can't do it. I personally cannot be a part of that type of experience. And it gets, at the end of the day, it gets more exhausting than it gets enjoyable. And sometimes you have people who they they claim to have your best interest at heart, but they really don't. So all that being said, I've kind of backed away from the table with social media and with engaging. So like people have, I think I saw one day somebody had like reacted or sent me a message, and I had to tell the person like, hey, nothing against you. We ain't got no problems. I'm just not on there. I need a break. Like right now, I think I am close to, if not, yeah, I think I'm past the 80-hour mark right now. And we're getting there. Like it's crazy, but we're getting there. Like by this evening, I'll be at 96 hours. And it's like when you break, this is how time works. And I know I still got to do the mental check-in for the month, but this is how crazy it is when we look at it. Like, my goal, and I told most people, is like, all right, my goal is 200 hours. And I'm telling people this, and they're like, hey, that's a lot of time. That's a long amount of time. And I'm like, if you break it down, it's really not, because 200 hours in theory is 8 days, just about, close to nine, depending on like when I started it, it was like Saturday evening. So it wasn't like if it was Saturday morning, then yeah, you probably would be. It would be like a different time frame to some degree. It would actually 200 hours would probably put me at it would probably put me at yeah, it would put me at Sunday. Like 240 to put it in perspective, 240 hours is 10 days. No matter how you slice this 10 days. There's no daylight savings. None of that matter. Well, in this case, it may matter only because we do have daylight savings time. So that kind of pushes it back an hour. Because the 200-hour mark would be like 151 on Monday, 151 in the morning. Now, if we didn't have daylight savings time, it would probably be 252, but still, it still would be an overnight time frame. Um, but I'm mentioning all that, or I'm referencing it because people look at time or they look at that window and they're like, dang, that's a long time. That's a lot of time you off your phone. I'm like, well, slice it down. 3 days is 72 hours. The end, right? You add another 3 more days, that's 144. You only got less than 60 hours. So by that point, you're now looking at like 2.5 days, maybe. It's not you're not missing much if you ain't doing much with it. Like like I said, I've dodged the gram for a good while. Like I check in on one of my friends like through DMs. I do that through the web. And even then I'm on there for like a few seconds and then I'm gone. Because it's just not anything appealing. And it's not like and I want to be clear because I want to say this on the record and just being transparent. I'm not better than anybody at all. That's not where this goes. This comes down to more I need a break from it. And I've normally always said, "Oh, I'm taking a break, or I'm going off the grid, doing this and that," and then I come back like a couple days later. This time, no, I'm off. Like I'm still, yeah. Do I still use Twitter? Of course. Do I still post to look at stuff on Threads? Yeah. But even Threads is kind of diminished a little bit. Like I'm open and honest and saying I don't plan to close my account, but on the flip side, I almost want to just hide the app and not access it at all because it's not an app that I'm really using like that. Because Threads, Threads kind of lost its threading. No pun intended. I know that was a corny pun joke, but look, just let me have that one. Um, but yeah, I'm just not there. So the mental has been kind of calmed since since doing this challenge. Like I said, the end of by the time I get off work, go to the ministry event this evening. Once I get over there, I'll be at like 96 hours. That time goes by and like it goes by just like that. Um, then tomorrow I'll probably peak. Tomorrow I definitely should peak 100. So it's and then two. I mean, what you factor in Friday? I'm going to the football game. Saturday, going to homecoming. Homecoming, I'll be like in the 150s maybe. And I'm not going, like, sure, am I going to take photos while I'm there? Absolutely. Am I going to hang out and tailgate and mix and mingle? Sure. But even, and I've even been on the fence. I'm like, I'm going, but I'm also like, do I want to just chill and like lock in and get some stuff going? Do I want to do a podcast before what's coming, before next week? I've thought about all that stuff. Um, so yeah, it's been a process. So yeah, professional, mental. Personally, I've had better days, but I'm not like letting it get the best of me. And I'm open in this discussion because a lot of times people know I'm very like I won't say standoffish, but I can be very quiet because I really don't like to take myself through a whole lot of stuff with people, and I also don't necessarily. I'm not the biggest fan of putting all that I got going on in other people's like mixes and cues and plays and flows or whatever. And many times that's worked to my advantage. So I'm not like tripping on it one way or the other. But I will say, like lately, I've probably been more calm than I've been in a while. And I think a lot of people, like even with like our new changes with work, like having that work from home week was an adjustment. But then coming back in the office, that was an adjustment because it's like it's a people overload, but it's a people overload that you can control. And like in all fairness, it's like I understand like where there's the setup that we're in right now. I understand when people have those like cubicle walls or cubicle free like things to uh, if they need like space and they don't want to be bothered. Like I saw the sitting dynamic last week and I was like, okay, I get it. And I ain't mad. Well, not last week, yesterday. I get it. It's the folks are gonna find where they can be at home and kind of be in a element and not be bothered by a whole lot of confusion. And I'm not whatsoever in my like I have no reason to be mad at that, like at all. Um like to I think I know what I'm gonna do today. Like I may do something unorthodox, but we'll see. I just have to be cautious only because of where it's located. There may be faces sitting in that area. I know I'm doing this as a podcast, but I ain't expecting these folks to hear it, but it is what it is. But I'm just talking on talk. My feeling for the month has been uh revised. Uh so the theme of the month was the month of disgust. I was very disgusted and I needed to get to it. And all things considered, I got to it. There was a lot of bumps and bruises and things where I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but I got through it. Um, it won't the prettiest, but I got through it. Um, I've had to, you know, I made some unique investments, aka the desk, which I'm not gonna talk about. I haven't really like I think what tomorrow will be a week since having it. I really haven't talked much about, and it's I mean, not to be funny, it's not to put light blame on it. It's a freaking desk. Like you seen one, you seen them all. But the desk is the desk. I don't, I use it as I need to. It's been helpful. I'm I'm in a lot of understanding when people have to set timers or set reminders of saying like stand up, take a break, unplug, whatever. Um, stuff like that. I get it. Um, you're you're thrown in positions of understanding routines with certain things. And in the moment, you don't get like why this routine is so important or so relevant. But then over time, you're like, okay, I get it. And that's kind of what has been on my on my heart, on my mind with like a lot of things lately. Like to put things in perspective, like even yesterday, normally like I'm like, okay, it's Tuesday, ain't much going on. I'm up. I'm gonna kind of go in here, wind down a little bit, and then I'm gonna chill. Man, when in the room, laid down, I fell asleep. I was tired. And I think it was like an emotional tiredness because, and people don't think about this who don't experience it from a person's personal perspective. Being an ambivert empath or an empathic ambivert, whatever you want to call it, can be very heavy on an individual because if you're so used to peopling like meticulously and particularly peopling, it's not the end of the world. But when you're peopling to the point where it's like, this is a lot, and like people are drawn to it, it can become a lot. And a lot of folks don't see that or don't think about that. And it's not my job to be like, you should understand where I'm coming from. That's not where I'm going. That's not what my phrase or my reason is for saying that is. I say it on the level of I am able to maintain sanity in communication with others, but it's very meticulous. It's very like everything with me will always have like some form of a process, even with people not knowing the process. Like today, for instance, I've and this ain't even just a thing with I won't even use today as an example. I'll use times of me being around folks. I'll have folks who are like, "Oh, I want to do blah 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 blah, and I think we should hang out and do this, this, and this." And I'm like, "That's cool. I'm not against doing it. I think it would be a great idea, a great activity, but I've already got my plan set out, and I don't do. I personally have never been a fan of freestyle. You have to give me an advance. Like a few years back, I did this, talked about it on the podcast, and it still stands to this day. If you give me the time but don't give me the place, I'm not coming. If you give me the place but I don't know what time to be there, I'm not coming. Or if I show up, I'm going to show up when I feel like showing up. If you're not there in that time frame, you missed me. Sorry. That's the slot I have. Like I don't like as much as people like one of my friends jokes about it all the time with my time blocking, but time blocking is what keeps me intact with what I do. And that's going to be one of my pushes for November is to really streamline my time blocking because I thought about this today. I have slots and have spaces that I've shared with people to do different things and different activities. Totally fine, totally cool, no big deal. Problem is, people will look for things to be done, but then when it's like, hey, have you done X, Y, and Z? They're not gonna check with you to say, "Oh, I did it," or "Oh, I didn't do it." So now I'm almost like, why am I keeping it? And it's nothing against them as people. It's just the reality of the beast. Why am I keeping this as a calendar entry? If they want to keep it, they can. I'm letting it go because I can't. I just that's time that could be going into other things or could be slotted for other stuff. And I got that slot sitting there, and I'm like, not for lack of a better term, not using it. And I just don't like that. So the lesser of it is I've got work to do, and that's just what it is. And I'm trying my hardest to like get through it and not be on edge about stuff that's just not worth being on edge about. Because for whatever reason, the times when you're trying to like navigate through things, I'm not saying that people don't care and they're not considerate. It's just you notice you notice a lot more than what you would normally notice in real time. And that's really been like the biggest thing that I've honed in on over the last few over the last month. Um and I'll end with this because I know I was like I've been talking, but I ain't really got to no point. Um we all treat people's time, effort, and energy different. We know that it's obvious, it's blatant, it's clear as day. But it's not about how others treat our time, it's about how we treat our own time. And I always emphasize this with people, and I gotta give X credit for this with him talking about this because now I'm never unseeing it because of how real it is. In your life, you're gonna be in one of three stages. You're gonna be coming out of a storm, you're in the storm, or you're at the beginning of a storm. One of those three statuses you're experiencing in life. It's a known fact. And it's almost like a generic rule of thumb when it comes to just our day-to-day activity because storms are gonna hit and we're like, oh, it's gone. I'm good. Ain't nothing to worry about. But the reality is it's gonna come like it can show up again and it could have been like, ah, psych, I'm done. But no, we got more to do. It happens. It happens to the best of us, happens to the worst of us. Um, but I really want people to like hone in on like self-love, self-care, self-patience, processing, not stressing over what you can't control, not taking yourself through a whole lot of changes if you don't have to. And as much of an age-old phrase as it is, keep the main thing the main thing. Um, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do when it comes to their spiritual or and this ain't even religious to their spiritual beliefs. But the main thing lately for me has been God. And I really didn't realize that That's like out of all of the reflection of this month, I think that's been like the biggest reflection. Without God, I would not be in a lot of where I'm at. And I'm not looking at it even from a material standpoint. I'm looking at it from just a basic standpoint. There are things that I have done or have been able to do, and I'm like, I should not be doing them, but they've been getting done. And it wouldn't be without God's grace and without us giving without giving myself grace. So my closing message with all of that is this month has been a lot, but it hasn't been atrocious. And I want people to like hone in on like their care and their love for themselves and for other people. Uh, we sometimes get caught up in not knowing how to love people and not knowing how to be loved. And I think that's going to be a separate podcast. And I'm going to talk. I think I'm going to talk about that when I come back from my I won't say hiatus, but my social split is whether we claim we do or we don't, we need love. But we also need the right source of love. Love should not come from the things of the earth that are not healthy. Food is not love. Alcohol is not love. Deceitfulness or trying to get over on somebody is not love. Love is availability. Love is respect. Love is accountability. Love is embracing where you are with life. Learning that part of it gets you very far. And that's how I'm going to end this podcast. So I hope you all enjoyed this podcast, Walkcast. I know I went into a lot of topics and a lot of discussion, but I was going to eventually bring it home. I know y'all always like, dang, Brian, we just be going and where is this all ending up? But I really want people to like take that time to just learn how to not only love on themselves, but embrace love and what that looks like. That is a projected idea, and I'm sharing this with you all now, so you'll probably hear this by November. But the theme of November is the month of love. And I know most people look at it, well, what about February? February is that's a pagan holiday. That's a holiday folks follow, and ahead of time people don't even follow it. And it gets annoying because you can't go nowhere to eat, you can't go nowhere to do anything because everybody's trying to buy everything and go different places. Like single people can't go to a restaurant on Valentine's Day because it's a problem. But I digress. Um, but no, November is the month of love. There, I said it. We can move on. But in the meantime, in between time, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Stay positive, stay motivated, stay lovely, keep it moving, and know your why. And until next time, peace.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.